Megatrends. Everybody is full of megatrends, newspapers are full of megatrends, and you will find these and other charts on what the megatrends could be. Technologies, communities, urbanization. We look into those as well, but we find them too coarse, too far away from where we operate. We look into this dimension for disruptive developments, but not necessarily for things that we do in research and development. So that is, from a granularity perspective, too high. It's getting more relevant when we break it down into our business. And that is really the focus area we have. We don't want to talk about trends in urbanization and megacities and this, that, and the other, because it is not relevant for the products and services we sell at these stages. What is more relevant is what is directly happening in the forefront. Increasing technology is one of the sensors are getting cheaper, electronics are getting cheaper. But just think of what your smartphone is capable today as compared to the first cellular phones as they had been called 20 years ago. And these smartphones today, you even can use them as a phone. Surprising. You're laughing. I mean, my son, he's 18, he doesn't use it as a phone. They are sending these voice messages. Strange, I don't understand that culture, but they are not using it as a phone. They use it as a gadget. And the computation power of these smartphones exceeds what a supercomputer had been 20 years ago. And that dynamic goes on and goes on. So the level of technology is increasing. Industry 4.0, Internet of Things. I mean, we have different names for that. But in the end, it is we put more intelligence, more sensing capabilities in our daily life products. Do I like it? Honestly, no. There is an uncomfort level that Alexa knows more about my private life than probably my mother. And my mother knows a lot about me. I was born in a 400 people community, and my mom usually used to know when I had a beer too many at the pub before I was home. But Alexa even knows that I will have a beer too many probably before I even order it. That makes me nervous. Now, technology, it is a fact, and this is a major challenge for us because we are getting frequent inquiries, how can we put intelligence in our today passive products? So one of the key trends that we are working on, and I will not elaborate on it because we have own lectures on IoT, is of course putting intelligence in systems and around the ceiling knowledge. Energy efficiency. We all know with be the driver renewable energy, what we want at the end of the day is the most efficient use of energy. Now, in the ceiling environment, what does that mean? Lowest possible friction. A clear megatrend for us. We want to take friction out of the systems. We want to take wear out of the systems, and ideally we want to predict the lifetime of a seal. And then there's a combination in the two. If I can do that and put some sensing in it, the seal, or rather the sealing system, could send you an alert and say, maintenance cycle is coming up. Instead of just taking every 1,000 hours of service and throwing the good stuff away, there is a possibility for intelligence. It may not make sense in, say, stationary hydraulics, where servicing happens frequently, but for everything where you have remote applications, offshore wind, oil and gas, you name it, or when you're deep down in a water hydropower plant, you just don't want to crawl down there and replace the seal every whatsoever hours. You want to do that really only when it's necessary. Now, this also leads then to complete different ways. Do we want to sell seals, or do we in future want to sell hours of service of a seal? May sound strange, but there is complete new ways how we could collaborate. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to buy seals. What you want is the function. And we could contemplate selling the function. That means for us that we would warranty lifetime. Now I'm research and development before I had been the quality manager for TSS. And if you had asked me 2 years ago, signing up to warranty, no way. Today I'm thinking different. Take home message, be careful with your career plans. Digitalization I talked about, urbanization I talked about. Those are all things that are closer to our home turf, and that's closer to where we are. So key drivers in our industry. Is it the bigger, better, bolder? Is it the more of the same but cheaper? Is it cheap, cheaper, cheapest? Yeah, there is an element in that. And this is something we have to do as part of the efficiency, but that's not a megatrend. We always want to have efficiencies in there. That's not what we are after. For us, it's more performance. We want to have better performance. We want, for example, guaranteed lifetime. We want products that you can use on a global basis. Regulations play a greater and greater role. And this is not only in the regulated segments, oil and gas, medical, food and beverage, this is across the plate. Who of you is aware of the Proposition 65, a Californian environmental regulation? Who has heard that? Yeah? I'm not surprised. That gentleman is responsible for our internal response to that. So it's 3 of you. Game-changing. And you can't put customer products on the shelf in California if you don't comply with the latest version of this regulation. And it affects all products. If you want to have the license to sell a product in California, you have to comply with it. Now, and this is what you as world leaders recognize. You don't want to design a product for California. You don't want to design a product for Japan. What you want is to have a product that you can sell globally, and you need the assurance from us that the products we supply to you meet all relevant global requirements. That is a megatrend that is out there, globalization. Globalization in the means of globalization of markets, of having a product for all global markets. And of course, what we see in our industry is the broadening of application conditions. If in the past requirements had been, it has to be good enough for minus 25 degrees, it is again the products should be able to be used globally. Now it's minus 40 or even minus 60 for mobile hydraulic cylinders. Key trend we go to, so there is a bigger, better, bolder, but driven by we want to use the products on a global basis and not have a Siberian design versus a Sahara design. Ideally, we want one global design. So what we see in terms of drivers in our industry, higher load, and that is a question of energy efficiency, or it's rather a question of energy density. You don't want to put a yet bigger hydraulic cylinder on it. You want to have a small build space, but with more energy density. So you go from 250 bar eventually to 500 bar. Not sure if we go beyond that because then security problems come in, but clearly energy density is a key driver. That is about lightweighting, just out there. Demanding environments. We have our colleagues from offshore here. Yeah, and of course, the easy oil fields and gas fields are already explored. We have to go to more demanding environments. The same is true if you talk about mining. The same is true in very many other industries. I mean, just think of the medical industry where we do surgeries today that, well, I have to take that back. The Egyptians already did it. But we didn't do for 20 years. And this is more demanding environments as well. So this is happening. Challenging applications. We have the temperature exposure, we have the higher pressures, we talked about that. And then the broad application pattern. Again, the key feedback from the global product. I want a universal product, and that means the set of requirements is broadening out. From low to high temp, from low to peak pressure, from Also, very demanding fluids. Again, driven by the energy efficiency. You want to have low viscosity fluids because the internal friction, for example, in the hydraulic cylinder, is causing friction, it's causing heat, it's waste energy. The nice point about these new hydraulic fluids is that they are extremely aggressive. So traditional sealing materials won't work. So we need to come up with materials that can withstand those new fluids. This is where we came from. Seals, 5-10 years ago, there was a robust design, there was a lot of safety margin in there, and this is why people like us that produce high quality stuff often said, oh, it's over-engineered. Yeah, seals had been over-engineered. And sometimes we have to be honest, we oversold some of the aspects. No, James never did it, of course. James not. Yeah, you work in the most demanding environments. But some others did. Well, I confess guilty in the sense of the accusation I did. But things are changing, as I said, temperatures, power, pressure, media, environment. And then there is this aspect, cost. It's always present. We can't ignore it. As engineers and as technicians, we don't like to talk about cost, but it is a driver that is in there. And the safety buffer has now been eaten up. Seals that we had designed 20 years ago were good. They were competitive. They kept up with, say, the slight increases in requirements. But now we are at the limits where the safety buffer has been eaten up. Let's put it that way around. And nobody wants that still the cheap seal. Still, commercially, we are a C part, and from the function, we are an A part. In the grand scheme of things, the cost per seal in the total assembly is often irrelevant. But from the functional perspective, we're one of the most important parts. And you still want to have a certain safety buffer. You don't want to have accidental losses in there. Just because the consequences of still stands, leakages, etc., you don't want that. The second big thing, and that is a clear megatrend, reliability. And reliability also goes with predictability. And again, if you haven't heard our presentations on Internet of Things, that is clearly something we want to talk to you about, putting intelligence in the system, predictive maintenance, or we call it cognitive sealing. We talk about lifetime, about longer service life. Mean time between failure, MTBF, had been a word that only the auto industry used 5 years ago. Today we hear it all over the place. If, say, an AQL quality level had been good enough 5 years ago, these times are over. AQL is just not good enough. We all, and you all, rightly so, want defective free parts. Why shouldn't you? And then for us, one of the big trends is energy efficiency. Low energy losses, so take all the friction, the waste energy generation away. Lightweighting. Whatever you move, the lighter it is, the lower the energy requirement is. A clear trend out there. But what does lightweight also mean? If the wall of a cylinder gets smaller, less stable, so you need, I call it forgiving seals that compensate bending that occurs. And you don't want to compromise on the function. It's new materials. Carbon fiber reinforced stuff, which we haven't used before. So we need to seal against new materials as well, driven by energy efficiency. So those are the three really main super trends that we see out there. Cost, I don't want to talk about it, I'm an engineer. It goes on with functional integration. Today, you have a bearing, a seal, or a scraper, a seal, another bearing, da 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 da. In the best of all worlds, you have a very compact design where you don't waste the build space, where you don't have to CNC your rod 6 or 7 times, build up of tolerances, yada, yada, yada. What you want is functional integration. Reduction of moved mass. Whatever you move costs you energy, and it costs you inefficiency or causes inefficiencies. And it wears down the entire equipment, lightweighting. I've talked about that. What is really a challenge for us is the broad spectrum of fluids. That's a very dynamic environment. A lot of things are happening. And that is an industry that is particularly hit by regulations. We very often have the case that these additive packages that go into fluids contain specialty chemicals. For example, under the European REACH regulation, it costs you as a producer of those specialty chemicals up to €1 million to prepare the dossier, to get the permit to continue to produce that chemical. Now, if you sell 50 kilograms of that a year and your turnover is €100,000, the decision is very simple. You stop production. And this is happening all the time. In the background, and we all don't recognize that, there is thousands of specialty chemicals that disappear from the shelves. And that requires the hydraulic fluid producers, for example, to constantly upgrade and change their formulations. And this is a typical case. We are supplying a product to a valued customer since 10 years, no issue, and all of a sudden we have different swelling behavior. I mean, what is the most natural reaction? You give us a call and say, what did you bastards do with that material? It wasn't us, it's the composition of the hydraulic fluids that changed. Finding that out is difficult, but that is happening all the time. Now, we try to be on the forefoot to say whenever there is a new hydraulic fluid, we want to have a gallon that we can test it against at least our major materials, but we are constantly playing catch-up game here. Electrification of drives. I mean, it's not only the electrical cars out there, it's electrification and electrical drives. You may not have recognized, but in the past, in the aerospace industry, and David, you know that, all the flight actuation had been on hydraulics. Now, that means you have to have a central hydraulic with pipes really to the wing top. This is all weight, this is loose mass, this can break loose. What are they working on? Electric drives. Put a small electric engine out there, so you don't need the central hydraulic, and off we go. And we see the exact same trend, electrification, decentralized power provision is a megatrend, and that means increasingly start-stop capabilities, low friction, rapid acceleration, out there, no surprise. Who of you had already the experience of driving an electrical car? Those of you that hadn't, that's a must-have. And don't take, I mean, you can have the Tesla with the insanity mode. This is super spectacular. I mean, it's really nice to outperform a motorcycle on the highway. I can tell you, having been on the motorcycle. But just take a small compact car with an electric engine, the performance it gives you at the traffic light. And it's really cool if there is this Porsche next to you and you just outperform them. No, it tells the story I want to bring across. The torque, the acceleration is superb, but it means that the entire system has to deal with that acceleration. You have to go, and particularly for us in the sealing industry, the seal has to withstand that rapid acceleration. There is no slow going into work mode. You have to be there now. Digital, boom. New functions. 5 years ago, nobody has talked about electrical conductivity in seals. Today, this is a request we have almost every day. And when I talk about, it's both extremes. People want either conductive or full isolation, and it's electricity, electromagnetic waves, and temperature. And we have both extremes, and we need to work to get our materials really to function either as a perfect isolator or as highly conductive on the other end. Again, for electricity, electromagnetic waves, as well as temperature. And that comes out of this start-stop capabilities, because you create friction and you need to offload the temperature, otherwise you will kill the material. Active products to emit, absorb, control vibration, damping, radiation, heat, and we talked about digitalization already. Another big driver that is out there, if we like it or not, sustainability. It is not only a societal megatrend, we see it increasingly in the requests. Compliance is expected, that should be a given. And not only against current, but also, as I tried to alert with that California example, on future and emerging regulation. Because if you decide that you put a certain product on the shelf, you don't want to change the design in 3 years' time. You have designed it for a 10-year life cycle, and you don't want to change it just because somewhere a regulation changed. And that is something that increasingly suppliers like us have to take into account, that we offer you selections that are sustainable in terms of also future and emerging regulations. Product safety, big thing. Not in all segments, but if we talk about food, beverage, this is the number one driver today. When we go into some of the markets that we are allowed to service, in aerospace, I was talking about that already, away from a central hydraulic system to decentral electric systems. And all of a sudden, you need different seals. But still, you need to have seals that can withstand minus 60 up to 120. Weight reduction, big driver in aero. The electrification, temperature range, I talked about that. They are in the forefront of high viscosity, ultra low viscosity fluids, and longer service intervals. Availability of a plane is the commercial driver with the airliners. What you want is no plane on ground. You want to have service intervals extended and extended and extended, and ideally maintenance-free services. We know that doesn't work today, but that clearly would be an aspiration that for some of the seals you would design for lifetime. No good news for the MRO players, by the way. For us, that means we have to work on new materials, and it's the low temperature, fluid compatibility, what have you, new designs that smaller seals can carry higher loads. That means we have to go into new materials again, reduced wear, reduced friction. These are big drivers, coming up with designs that inherently have lower friction, and complete new solutions for technologies that are not out there. Auto, today a very big market for us. We and our customers have a very big challenge. I mean, today, who of you drives a diesel car? Okay, I commit guilty in the same sense. Today, pretty much all the injectors in the engine have our O-rings. Well, with the electric car, there is no more injector. That's a big business that we will lose. We will not falling over a cliff, but certainly there is no growth in there. High-speed rotary seals, and we had an own presentation on a technology innovation that we have, so we have a solution for that. Complete new media against, we need sealing solutions, coolants, very new cooling agents, battery fluids, extremely aggressive. And you need to have the right materials that can seal those liquids. And the ongoing push towards performance lightweight materials, carbon fiber. There is very limited experience around the world how to seal a rotating carbon fiber rod. I wouldn't dare sell you a product today, but I'm sure I will next year. Again, here the driver for us is, or the development needs new materials, ultra low friction, Conductive materials, electrification means you need to offload static, currency, etc. New designs, and again, new solutions. And when I go through these other industries, like in medical and healthcare, regulations, material approvals, frozen recipes. I mean, this is what the auto industry wanted since years. Now the medical industry woke up again. You can't change a material composition. Automation, product identification. You may want to be sure that you put the right product, the right tube in there. So, okay, this is for a dialysis. Okay, this comes from the body, this goes to the body. You don't want to change those. And it has to be easy. So the best thing is it's colorant. Again here, and you begin to see the theme, new materials, mainly driven by very aggressive sterilization requirements. This is not just pulling water through. This is about gamma ray, this is about UV light. And those of you that have a little material background know that both gamma ray as well as UV is not necessarily the best friend of a polymer. New designs, new solutions. I mean, this is where we come to things like traceability and marking. What these people want is that the silly O-ring that they use has the full life cycle record, ideally with it, on a 2D code that you could read out. This is the industry that wants perfect traceability. And we work on that. We have a couple of exposés there that talk about that story. Food and beverage. Yeah, I talked about this global regulations, hygienic design, a big driver, aroma migration. That's a big one. In these, I don't know if you are familiar with these big bottling and filling centers. You do 3 pallets of orange juice, then you do 3 pallets of mineral water, you do 10 pallets of Coca-Cola, and it goes all through the same filling machine. And what you don't want is that your mineral water, the first couple of bottles have an orange juice taste to it. And actually that is one of the senses we humans are extremely sensitive. So it has to be perfect. And what you don't want is to have a full cleaning cycle all the time, because that's a rapid turnaround industry. And what you want is that then the aroma just don't sit somewhere. For example, that some of these, and the aroma very often are acids, so that they are being absorbed by the seal and then brought back into the other liquid if the pH value changes, because that is something we would recognize. So we need new materials that are less sensitive to migration. The same mechanism, by the way, is when we seal against hydrogen or other very light gases. Same mechanism. What we want is migration tight materials. Hydraulics, load, service life, energy efficiency, platform solution. Oh, and the biggie out there, post-chromium. Now I know that some of you may be tired about hearing that. It's pretty much the 7th attempt to ban hard chroming. But hexavalent chromium is damn dangerous. It is not when you hold a chromated rod in hand, then it's safe, but the hexavalent chromium is causing cancer. And those people that work in chromating these rods, they are exposed to very nasty environments. Therefore, the attempt of the regulators to ban hard chroming. Can you imagine a world without hard chroming? Very difficult. Just look at 90% of the rods, hard chromed surfaces. But now, whether or not they will be restricted in Europe in 3 years, or if the regulators again postpone the hard close of it, at some stage it will happen. We need an alternative. And yes, there are alternative surface treatments out there, but up until now, the surfaces are coarser, the surfaces are more sensitive to damages. So we haven't seen a real equivalent to hard chromed surfaces. And what we have seen, that our existing sealing solutions don't really work well with these new surfaces. So we keep on working on that, but it means for us new designs, new solutions. Lubrication management that we have introduced 2 years ago is one of the solutions, that we have a cascaded pressure and a cascaded lubrication to withstand these new surfaces. So there are solutions out there. Are they perfect yet? We tend to say so, but we only know what we know. There's a lot of dynamics in the development there. But that's something we closely follow. Automation and drives, acceleration. I mean, electrical drives, the acceleration curves are getting more demanding. Reliability in less prediction utilization cases, really robust designs. The big challenge is overload. If you have an electric engine in, say, an excavator, a hydraulic system had always a little reserve. The electric engine could stall. That's nothing you want. So we need to come up with solutions that can live with overload. And you see the trend. Material, design, and this is where we are very fortunate, because it is the trends, even though they are somewhat different, they go in the same direction. They are not contradicting each other. Yet, in the segments themselves, the specific requirements diverge. That goes without saying, ever more demanding applications. What does it mean for us? I think we got reconfirmed through that analysis that we are well underway if we keep on focusing on what the segments need, that we understand and talk the language of the segments that we have the pleasure to serve, that we understand where these things are heading. Trend scouting in their regulatory development tracking for the regulated industries. We have agreed, and that's something we already are in the making, strengthening our material development competence. I mean, you guys know us as someone that has access to a portfolio of high-performance materials. We will further aim to strengthen that competence. And even more focus on design and engineering support. And I think this is where our business model really works in our favor. We want you to consider us as your partner of choice, working in projects, working in demanding applications. That's why we are here. That's our reason being. We want to be there to help you in your demanding and challenging projects. We invest in testing, in simulation, in this, that, and the other. In knowledge that we need that in our development partnerships with our customers. What can you help us with? Involve us early. If you give us 6 weeks time to come up with a new design, we will not be able to do that. If we know what is coming our way, we could help you designing your systems better. Enhance our understanding of the application needs. If you see things that are changing in a couple of years, we're more than happy to entertain that discussion. We want to have a look into your crystal ball, where your industries are going. Because if you tell us, then our time to respond is not long enough. What I really would like to invite you for, where you see the need, invite us for joint engineering sessions, joint R&D sessions. We're keen to learn what your challenges are. Take us serious in that. We want to aim for development partnerships with our customers, because you have your ears and eyes out there. And actually, at the end of the day, you are our ears and eyes out there. Because what we don't hear from the markets is very tough for us to get a read on. What I would like to take you home today, we see both evolutionary and revolutionary changes. I mean, there is continuous improvement things, and there is disruptive aspects, and we have to work on both. We can't only focus on the shiny objects at the end of the tunnel. We also have to work on the bread and butter business. Absolutely. Will we be an engineering house? No, we want to be the full service seal supplier of choice as well. We are not giving up on where we have been good at and where you appreciate the service that we're offering. We look for innovation and development partnerships. Take us for serious in that. We would, of course, like to go back to standard solution wherever possible, because that is economically feasible and attractive. And the engineered solutions where needed. We don't want to oversell. We want to do what is right for your application. Material competence, a key prerequisite, and we have, unfortunately, lost a little traction on materials. This is where we have rejuvenated our energy, and we have enhanced our internal capability for material research and material development. And the big question or the big request is keep on challenging us. Things we work on, and I would like to set you as a teaser for the next Innovation Days. We will probably have something to talk about predicting leakage. For us, this is the holy grail, that we could predict leakage based on surface conditions, sealing configuration, that we could simulate leakage. We're almost there. Performing solutions, absolutely, that's what we want to be known for, and solving tomorrow's problems today. I think this sentence summarizes the challenge that we would like to set out to you. Make us part of your solutions team to conquer new grounds and solve the problems that make you successful tomorrow. Thank you.